Hello and welcome everyone, and welcome back to our 30 days, 30 tips series with Illumino IT. I'm David, and very pleased to have you here, and welcome also to those who might be watching this on the replay. So we're going to do a 30-day, 30 tips challenge for Microsoft 365, as we mentioned. So we're still on some tips for Microsoft Teams. So today we're going to go through a really quick kind of couple of tips with you in terms of best practice and where you can create your meetings in Teams and some of the settings that define how you're actually able to create those meetings also. So I am going to be showing you those things within both Teams and Outlook. So stick around for those two tips. And then I'll be showing you in the background in the Microsoft Admin Center where you can set different settings in order to allow you or your company or your staff to do those types of things. So yeah, really good to have you here. Hope the new year also is treating you all very well. So let's get into our tip very quickly. So I'm just going to share my screen here. Okay, we'll just make that a bit bigger there and a bit bigger again. There we go. So here is my client computer. So we're talking about scheduling teams within scheduling meetings, the beauties of a live session. So we're talking about scheduling meetings within Microsoft Teams. So the first way, and you may well be aware of this, is we can go into our calendar here in Microsoft Teams, and we can either look for the time slot that we would like to use for our meeting. So let's say that we want to have a meeting in about half an hour. So what we can simply do here to start off meeting creation is just click on this slot here. So we click on the slot. It will take us directly into a calendar appointment so that we can use the scheduling assistant to create this meeting. So without further ado, we shall also then, we can add required and optional attendees here. So for example, we can add an internal user. So this might be an internal user, but we can also add an external user to this. So we might want to add an external user who's already kind of known to the system. So we can change our response options here. And we'll go through this require registration setting in a minute, but for the time being, we're just going to create a basic meeting. Now we can also set it up to repeat here, so we can kind of do the repeating pattern. We can also add a channel to these meetings. So for example, if you're in a team with other people, you may have a channel where you always want a specific meeting to take place. So within a team, you might have a channel for finance, for example, and there might be a recurring meeting in that channel where all the team get together and discuss items related to finance within that team. Add a location, so we can add a location to this. So if there are people who are coming into our meeting in person, we can add a specific location, but this will also be automatically created as a Teams meeting. So we can type some details for this meeting also, and we can do some formatting in terms of the message there. So I'm not really going to do very much else here. We're just going to create this meeting. So this is going to send invites to these two users, and that's us having created our very basic meeting there. Now we saw an additional interesting option there. So what we'll do now is I'll show you that this new meeting button here is very much the same as this, although if we do it through the new meeting button, it doesn't really give us or it chooses a time that's close to now, for example. So you'll see this is chosen January the 4th, 8:30. It is now 8:05 here. So it's chosen the next slot basically for us. Now, we mentioned this require registration, and this item is for webinar creation. So if we click here and say require registration for everyone, and I'm not going to go into webinar creation currently here, but what you can see now is I've got require registration for everyone. And I'm just watching out every now and again for comments or anything coming in. So I'm not seeing any questions currently, so I'll carry on. And you'll see that this additional box has appeared here to tell us that this is now going to create a webinar for us. So with the webinar, we can view the registration form. And this will open up the registration form for us in a Microsoft Edge browser. So this will be the registration form, and you can see that we can add all kinds of details into this registration form, and we can add an image, for example, for our event. Like I said, I'm not going to really go into this in any further detail today, but we may do one of these on webinars in a later live when we've got kind of a bit more time in that session. So I'm just going to close this for now. So as you saw there, the way to create a webinar as opposed to a normal meeting is to require registration for everyone. So let's just close this down. Excuse me, discard button. Okay, so a couple of ways there. So we can create one just by clicking in an empty space on the calendar. We can do that through new meeting, or we can also choose to meet now with members of our own team, and we can call those people into the meeting, and that will open up the meeting experience for us. Now, I just want to show you quickly another way of scheduling these meetings. So this time from our Outlook client. So I think most people will be familiar with Outlook, especially if you're using the Microsoft Office 365, Microsoft 365 suite. So as you can see here, we're in our Outlook client and we're in our calendar. And up at the top of the calendar, we have two options here, which are Meet Now. So you can see that will start an instant Teams meeting. If I click on Meet Now, you'll see this will open up Teams for me. And if we give it a couple of seconds, there we go. It has opened up the meeting experience for me, and I can join that meeting straight away. So I'm going to close that one there. And I'm just going to minimize my Teams again. And then the additional thing we can do here is we can create a new Teams meeting, either by using this button here, or we can get the same effect by choosing our slot again. So we might want to create a meeting here for tomorrow, for example. So we'll double click on this 1 o'clock slot here. And you'll see that I also have a button here for Teams meeting. So I'm just going to click on Teams meeting. And you can see, as if by magic, it's put the details for the Teams meeting here in the bottom for me. It's telling me here that you can click here to join the meeting. I've got some information here about joining Teams meetings, and I've also got a link to meeting options also that potentially people can access depending on their rights within the meeting. So it's already added for me a location of Microsoft Teams meeting, and I can do again. So we'll test that one again. I can choose the people to bring in to this meeting. So I might want to add a training user, for example, here, and I might want to add an external user. So we can do that as you would with a normal Outlook meeting. Okay, so we can then send this invite, and this will send out that invite to those people who have been invited. And there we go. So a couple of ways there for you, or 2 or 3 ways really, to create Teams meetings. So we can either create them from the Outlook client if we have these buttons enabled here. and we can also create them within the Teams client by clicking in the calendar, clicking the new meeting, and remember that registration option for your webinars. Now, I'm just going to show you in the background how these items are set up. So I am going to just move another screen in front of this. Okay, so you may not need to know exactly how this works, but it's helpful to know, for example, if you're working in an organization and you don't have the options within your Outlook client to get these switched on, you can ask your IT person, for example, to have a look for this setting. So we're in the Microsoft Teams Admin Center, we're in our meeting policies, and this setting here tells me whether I can use the Outlook add-in or not. So again, there's a couple of other settings there. So the meeting registration, so it asks you whether everyone should be able to register for meetings, etc., and tells you whether you can do engagement reports and so on. So this is the main setting that I want to show you here, and this is what determines whether we can use our Meet Now or New Teams meeting buttons within Outlook. Okay, so thank you very much for joining us today. Hope that tip was useful for you. Again, as we mentioned, these tips will be available recorded after the event. So if you do also find any of this useful, we've just got going across the bottom now, we've got the web address for our website. So if you are interested in any kind of additional tips, or whether you would like to look at some of our blogs, we also have our services on there. So we can do kind of training and consultancy as well in terms of Teams or Microsoft 365, either for yourselves or for your organization. So head on over to that website, have a look, and we'll hopefully see you on the next live tomorrow. Okay, thanks very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and look forward to hearing from you soon. Okay, bye.